the names Burgundy, Chablis, Chardonnay, Workhorse, Redneck, Revenge, and Girls Gone Wine have in common? I have just listed 3 names of some famous French wines and 3 names of some very soon-to-be famous wines from Nebraska. Today I'm going to provide some background information about wine, including its history, how it's made and classified, some surprising health benefits of wine, statistics on its increasing popularity in the U.S., and finally, tell you about the exciting emerging Nebraska wine industry. Wine is described as a moderately alcoholic beverage made from the juice of fresh grapes or other fruits and plants like cherries, rhubarb, dandelions, strawberries. The alcoholic content can usually range from about 8% to 20%. Wine is used to celebrate, to complement meals, used in recipes, and for religious ceremonies. It seems that wine has always been a very integral part of our lives. Encyclopedias tell us that wines have been with us since time began. It is believed the first wine was made around 8000 BC in Georgia, in Eastern Europe. Recorded references go back about 5,000 years ago to ancient Egyptians and Babylonians' picture writings. From the Bible, we read in Genesis 9:20, Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of the wine, he became drunk. Romans started worshiping Bacchus, their god of wine, around 700 BC. In the New Testament, John 2 tells us of Jesus' first miracle, turning water into wine. Grapevines came to the New World during the late 1500s when the Spaniards brought them to Mexico. To make wine, it first starts with harvest, and that takes place in late summer or early fall. The fruit is picked, crushed, and then the fruit and juice are pumped into tanks to ferment. Fermentation is what turns juice into wine. The yeast in the fruit converts sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide gas. Grape skins are what gives wine its color. So, for red wine, the skins stay on. For white wine, the skins are removed. And for rosé, the skins are left in the vat for just a short time. Almost all countries produce wine, but most people agree the finest and most famous wines come from France. Wines are classified by generic and varietal names. Examples of generic names of wine are Burgundy and Chablis, and those names come from the region where the wine is produced. Varietal names are named for the grape used to make the wine, and that might be names such as Cabernet, Sauvignon, or Chardonnay. The 6 main classes of wine are appetizer wines, like sherry, red, rosé, and white table wines, dessert wines, and finally sparkling wines like champagne. Most of these vary in taste from sweet to dry, which means non-sweet. Red wine is served at room temperature with red meat. White wines are served chilled with fish or chicken. And rosé is an all-purpose wine, kind of a combination of both white and red wine. Wine is more popular than ever, and recent evidence about its health benefits will probably increase its popularity. In a July 2nd Daily Mail article, Fiona McCrae tells us researchers have discovered red wine can help burn fat. Experiments on rats have shown an ingredient in red wine called resveratrol can prevent ill effects of inactivity on muscle and bones. A long-term study of 20,000 women supports this research. Women who drank 2 glasses of wine a day actually put on less weight than women who were drinking water or soda. Other studies have shown cardiovascular and antioxidant benefits associated with resveratrol in red wine. In an article by Fred Tasker from the Miami Herald, last year the United States passed up France for the amount of wine consumed. The U.S. drank 330 million cases. France drank 321. Although per capita, France still outdistances the United States. That's 5 bottles compared to 1 bottle for each person in the U.S. U.S. is catching up with France in per capita consumption also. The U.S. is going up 1% a year since 1994, and France has been decreasing by 14% since 2006. 2 generations have been identified as the biggest wine drinkers. The baby boomers, that's people who are age 40s to in their 60s, and their children, the millennials. Those are people born after or since 1982. It seems maybe the baby boomers have taught their children well. With the increased popularity of wine in the U.S., Nebraska is no exception. We are known for agriculture, growing corn, alfalfa, soybeans, and wheat. But it might surprise some people that the soil and water here are also excellent for growing grapes, according to Wine 101, a May article in the Grand Island Independent Discover supplement. In his article, Wine Travel, Nebraska's Blossoming Wine Country, Jim Hoffman tells us Nebraska actually has a long history of grape growing and winemaking. There were 5,000 acres of grapes planted just before Prohibition started. In the past 2 decades, there has been a resurgence of planting vineyards and winemaking in Nebraska. The industry has really grown. According to an article in the Grand Island Independent entitled Nebraska Wine Industry, more than 30 different varieties of grapes are grown here in our state in over 50 different counties. There are over 24 family-owned wineries, each offering its own unique wines. Nebraska wines may carry the same name, like Edelweiss and La Crosse, and that's named after the grape they come from. But the wines will vary in taste at each winery because there's differences in soil, climate, and geophysical conditions. That causes a different flavor of the grape. I have given you a short tour of wine, telling you about the history of wine, how it's made and classified, its health benefits, and the current popularity in the U.S. and here in Nebraska. I personally have visited over a dozen of Nebraska's wineries and enjoyed the delicious fruit of the vine our state has to offer. You know, our vintners are rightfully proud of their wines and the new industry that they're helping build here in our state. Some names of local vineyards are Cedar Hills, Cut Hills, and Sage Hill. Some are named for waterways like Deer Springs, Feather River, Max Creek. As our state continues its growth, maybe in the not too distant future, when tourists refer to wine country, it won't be California's valleys they're talking about. It will be Nebraska's rolling hills.